In Ukraine, new satellite images show apparent mass graves just outside the southern city of Mariupol in territory controlled by Russia. Our Charlie D'Agata is standing by in Dnipro, Ukraine with more.
Good morning, Nikki. The true death toll may not be known for some time. Now, some evacuations have been taking place over the past couple of days, but not many people have been able to escape. And Ukrainian officials say there may be as many as 100,000 civilians who are still trapped inside that city.
Smoke billows above the twisted ruins of the steel plant where at least 1,000 fighters and civilians remain trapped in an underground maze surrounded by Russian forces. Above ground, they're collecting the bodies everywhere. New satellite images appear to show long lines of graves, about 200, near the port city, where local officials accuse the Russian military of burying civilians in an effort to hide the horrors that have taken place. Civilian casualties are mounting along the front line of fighting. In Kharkiv, paramedics scrambled to save their own lives while tending to a wounded woman this week.
Kharkiv has suffered from intense bombardment since this conflict began. And even while we've been here, explosions have been ringing out throughout the day. The mayor said the Russians are furiously bombing the city.
Yana Bacha came to visit her father, only to find out he was killed by a chunk of shrapnel when he stepped out of his apartment to buy bread.
Even in war, he tried to smile, to joke, to support us. He said that you are my brave girls, you are heroes.
That daily risk has left those seeking shelter living in this subway tunnel for 2 months. On the platform, Pavel Fedoshenko hands out pizzas to excited children and their parents. The tab is picked up by complete strangers, people who fled the city, calling up and ordering pizza for those left behind. He says he now has foreigners treating paramedics and soldiers to pizza. Daddy's Pizza has now got a PayPal account to keep up.
You made a lot of children and a lot of people very happy for a few moments. How does that make you feel?
Joyful, he said, bringing a little slice of happiness here, seeing kids laugh, taste of the normal life. It feels fantastic.
We are now headed into the Orthodox Easter weekend here. There had been some hope of an Easter truce, but President Zelensky said the Russians rejected that idea. Nikki?
Those pizza deliveries to people in need in Kharkiv are remarkable. Seeing the smiles for the first time, really, I think, in any images coming out of Ukraine. Charlie, tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, well, as you just noted, we're talking about pizza delivery in Kharkiv. I have to underline the fact that this place is under constant bombardment. When we were there, the streets were absolutely deserted. I mean, it is an area that is in an active conflict zone. And what happened with this pizza place is he started delivering pizzas to people that needed a little bit of joy in their lives and needed to be fed. And what he found was the people that had already fled Kharkiv were calling back and ordering pizzas for the people that they left behind, just a way to sort of pay it forward and make their own donations. It then kind of went viral. Somebody tweeted it, a former diplomat tweeted it from Ukraine, and suddenly they had international interest in his organization called Daddy's Pizza. They do have a PayPal account if anybody wants to buy pizza for emergency workers here, paramedics, even the troops. And suddenly it became a thing. And yes, it's a small thing, but when we went to that subway station and we saw those people that had been there for 2 months, you see these kids, I mean, a slice of pizza can be a great relief. Yes, we're seeing what's happening in Mariupol and what's happening in Kharkiv. There are thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people who've either fled these areas or are taking shelter. And something like that, something that became so sort of organic to deliver pizza and to feed the people, just put a smile on their face for a few minutes. It means a lot, and it means a lot to him. I also asked him, by the way, you saw me in the flak jacket there because it is an active conflict zone. There's a lot of stuff happening in Kharkiv. I said, do you ever, put your own your own personal equipment on? He said, I have it, but I don't, because the people that he talks to, they don't have that equipment. So in real terms, and I mean this sincerely, he is risking his life to do the work that he does.
A brave man and such a great example of the power of a simple kindness. Charlie, what do we know about the conditions for the people still trapped beneath that plant in Mariupol?
Yeah, when we talk about those shelters, this is where it gets incredibly difficult. First of all, we have to paint the picture of that plant itself. There is a maze of underground tunnels and bunkers that have been there when the plant was designed. It's 11 kilometers, it's like 5.5 square miles, so it is huge. So these bunkers were already put in place, not necessarily to withstand what's happening here, but already to withstand a conflict, to withstand whatever may be needed at the time. It has now become this sort of underground city. Now, there are hundreds of wounded fighters, and we know this because we've spoken to them. Other people have spoken to them as well, who remain in there. There are hundreds of civilians, perhaps 1,000 civilians, families who haven't come up. This is a windowless shelter. Obviously, it's deep underground. They haven't come up for more than a month, and they're getting absolutely pummeled because the Russians have surrounded it, and they are just firing heavy artillery into that region, into the whole part of Mariupol. We've seen the pictures over the past few weeks. So it's terrifying for the young families and the children who are there. But they're also running out of food and water. And as President Putin himself said, it is now under siege. They said, we're not going to storm it. That would be far too costly for Russian forces with the Ukrainian forces that remain there. But they're just going to surround it and make sure that not even a fly can escape. So they are now surrounded. There's no way of getting food or medicine or water in or out of that area. So essentially, it's a standoff. So the situation down there is dire, and it's worsening by the day and by the hour. But still, there are Ukrainian fighters who are holding out.
Unbelievable. Charlie, thank you, and stay safe.